Escape from Tarkov lets you play with up to 4 other players, but a majority of you play solo. Why is that? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about some of the biggest strengths and weaknesses of both playing alone and squadding up. And if you like this week's video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I also stream 3 days a week on Twitch, so be sure to go follow my channel there, as we'll be playing with viewers throughout the wipe. And more details of that will be coming really soon. When we talk about playing Escape from Tarkov solo or in squads, we need to differentiate 2 different mindsets, and that's playing for fun or trying to look for every tactical advantage available. Since Escape from Tarkov is known for being punishing, it's only fair that players look for every tactical advantage they can find. This includes whether or not to bring teammates into your raids. Tarkov may have some lighthearted moments, but overall it's a progress-focused game, where every match is important to your overall improvement in Tarkov. That being said, it's only natural players who want to take the game more seriously judge whether or not having teammates will help you or hinder you. Now, when I asked this question to the YouTube community post, the vast majority of you said you prefer to play solo, with duos coming in a very not so close second place. And why is that? Well, the first thing we should do is talk about the strengths of a solo player while introducing the weaknesses of a squad. We're going to briefly talk about my top 5 solo strengths. One is independent pace of play, audio mechanics, looting, immersion, and stealth tactics. Let's start with independent pace of play. Now let me give you a quick example. You just spawn on woods as a 3-man squad. You spawn near the sunken village and are in a perfect spot to complete your task of scouting the convoy and use set camps for proper. However, both of your teammates have yet to complete introduction for mechanic. Now you have a few options. You can split up and complete your respective tasks. You can choose to pick one task and extract, but would have to return to woods in order to complete the other tasks, or you can knock them both out in one run as a group. Not only are these options less than ideal, but if any teammate dies, your whole group is going to have to come back to woods just to get everybody on the same page. As a solo player, you really only have one objective to consider, and that's going to be whatever's best for you at that raid. Additionally, as a solo player, you will spend a lot more time actually playing the game. The more people you add to a group, the more people you'll be waiting on in order to ready up and start loading into your next raid. The next strength of a solo player is being able to utilize audio much more effectively. As a solo player, you don't have to worry about being confused from friend from foe. Every simple audio cue is going to be a potential threat. As a squad, you have to be in constant communication with each other in order to avoid being the victim of friendly fire. And trust me, it will happen a lot if you're not careful. You need to be constantly asking, where are you at? Where are you? What are you doing? Was that you? Did you just jump? And trust me, this can be very daunting, having to ask every 30 seconds or else someone in your team is going to get TK'd. Now let's talk about loot. Now this one's a rather short one, but it's still worth noting. And that's, as a solo player, anything and everything you find is yours for the keeping. If you find yourself in a high value loot area, you won't be racing to pick up those graphics cards or LEDXs before your teammates. You can take as much time as you like while being able to use audio to observe your surroundings. Now as we talk about immersion, it's important to note that it's completely subjective to an individual player. And that goes back to what we were talking about before. Are you looking for in-game immersion or just to have fun? Now, as a solo player, I feel like I am always 100% hyper-focused in my raid, because I can really only rely on myself for protection. But every single accomplishment, no matter how small, is a personal victory. This makes those highs in Tarkov very high, but it also makes those lows very low. It makes Tarkov more of a journey than it is just a game where I'm focusing on leveling up. And probably the biggest immersion factor in Tarkov is being able to measure your progress as you play more, to see how you're really improving in the game. Are you making better decisions? Are you extracting more? Are you winning more fights? And as a solo player, you don't have to worry about if you're only improving because your teammate is now improving and carrying you throughout your game. Lastly, let's cover stealth tactics. Stealth is far more important to Tarkov than some of you may realize. Now sure, when you're using better kits, being aggressive is much more viable, but even then players are still using stealth and audio to gather in-game information to make their aggressive pushes more effective. And that solo player that's waiting for you in a bush nearby can now hear you coming from a mile away because your teammate decided to sprint right up next to you. This really makes it hard to move slow and steady as a group. Now I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is very difficult. Moving as a solo player is much easier to remain hidden and to sneak past enemies. And regaining stealth as a solo player is also much more viable, especially in a firefight. If you find yourself in a fight, you have the ability to shoot and relocate and wait. And as a squad, this is far more difficult to accomplish. And branching off and trying to relocate as a solo player when you're in a squad can often make you the subject of friendly fire. Now before we go into the strengths of a squad play, let me make a quick point here. Now when I asked the YouTube community poll, the vast majority of you said you preferred to play solo, and duos came in second place, with 3, 4, and 5-man squads exponentially decreasing decreasing in preference. Now with each weakness we already discussed, from task clutter to loot sharing to audio chaos, it's important to note that those risks are increased with each player you add to your squad. Likewise, as we go into the strengths, it's important to realize that those benefits also increase with each squad member you add. So just keep that in mind as we go through the rest of the video. Now my top 5 squad strengths are better combat tactics, being able to use cross cover in multiple angles, resource sharing, better insurance returns, and faster learning experience. Let's start with tactics. As a duo or a squad, you now have much more ways to pressure an opponent, and the biggest one in my playbook is flanking. Let's say you're near the construction yard at Customs, and you've come across a solo player who's located at A-frames and a firefight starts. Right out of the gate, a good duo can split up and begin pressuring the enemy from multiple angles. One can even lob a grenade and hold that angle and allow the second player to move and create a flanking opportunity. Now as a solo player, there's really no one to provide you backup or watch different angles. There's simply more ways to handle a fight as a squad, and effective groups can relay information to make more effective strategies. And this will lead us into our second tip, which is being able to cross cover and cover multiple angles. Squads that know how to implement things like cross cover can increase room clearing more safely. This can lead squads to being able to also move faster as a group when clearing danger areas, and you don't have to worry about looking at the wrong door at the wrong corner at the wrong time. Solo players really only have themselves to rely on when it comes to clearing their corners and watching their own back at the same time. And sometimes this can be a lot. Overall, being able to have somebody watching your back or watching left while you're looking right will increase your safety and your survivability rate. The next thing we're going to talk about as squads is being able to share your resources. Now I mentioned as a solo player, a huge strength is being able to keep all the loot you find. As a squad, you now have the ability to share those resources. And a couple examples of this are being able to share task items, providing extra food, water, or meds in raid, and even being able to split expensive keys in order to progress through a quest line. Good groups really know how to help each other out in more ways than one when it comes to sharing their resources. Also being able to share those costs of keys that can be going up for anywhere between 200 and even 500,000 rubles can increase an overall group's progression through quests because you're not having to take such expensive costs and you don't have to worry about finding those keys. One player can simply buy one and the next player will buy the next one. Now the next squad strength is going to have to do with being able to save you a lot of your hard-earned rubles. As a solo player, anytime you die in PvP, you have a much higher chance of having your kit looted. Now let's say you're running a 3-man squad in the same custom scenario as before, except this time, the enemy manages to kill you before the fight even starts, but your squad is able to secure the kill. Now where time and safety allows, they can now grab whatever it is you want from insurance and either hide it nearby, or they can even bring it back to you and give it to you in the next raid. You can save tons of hard-earned rubles by not needing to replace those kits as frequently as a solo player, and having more insurance means that you'll be able to save more rubles because you won't have to be replacing those kits as frequently as if you were a solo player. I love it when I'm having a bad day in Tarkov and can't seem to survive anything. I might have died 7 times in a row, only to come back the next day and have multiple kits ready to go from insurance to help recoup the losses and get back on track. Now the last tip is going to be faster learning. Now let's get to the obvious point and point out that new players in Escape from Tarkov are going to be able to learn the game much faster and much more efficiently when they have another player or players there to help them show them around. But the less obvious point is going to be that veteran players can still learn from each other when they squad up. Every time I've played with somebody new, they've always seemed to have a new tactic or an angle or loot path that helps me see the game in a new light. Simply sharing information with people can increase your in-game knowledge the more you play with others. Now to finish off the video, I want to point out I think it's really important that you explore both playstyles. Especially if you're a player who exclusively plays in groups, being able to function as a solo player translates into your squad. For example, you might find yourself that you're the lone survivor in your group. Now you have to operate as a solo player in order to extract, and sometimes that can be really scary, especially if you haven't played solo a lot. And as a solo player, maybe looking to expose a friend to Tarkov, being able to learn effective communication is going to be a huge skill to master. Now, if you have other insights into the diversity between solo and squads, I'd love if you leave a comment down below and told me what they were. And again, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. Also, make sure you keep an eye out for future YouTube community posts that will play a part in the upcoming videos. Now this video's Tarkov pro tip comes from Gaming Duology 4757, which says to learn the hotkey in order to drop your backpack. Now by default, this comes in at hitting the Z key twice. Learning to drop your backpack quickly like this is going to be very important to winning more firefights. As a PMC, being able to drop your backpack will make you a lot lighter. This will make you a lot faster when taking those firefights. And being lighter can often mean the difference between life and death in Tarkov. Or at the very least, being able to ditch your backpack nearby so somebody can't can't find it before a firefight happens can at least guarantee that if they happen to win the fight, they're not going to be able to profit off all your hard work. And also, if you'd like a video on more hotkey tips that you can implement in your first day of play in order to make you a more effective player, let me know and I'd love to make a video about it. Now with that out of the way, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you all again real soon.